Well, here we have a study in 2 Peter 2 1 to 11. We don't want to be victims, but yet we have to know that the Lord knows how to rescue us. And, God will judge even when people think they get away with it. And maybe they do in this life, but in the next they will face the Lord. So, God gave judgment to the angels when he cast them into hell for what they did. And they don't have any way to respond in that condition. They were holy, they had a special relationship with God, and when they blew it eternally. And they are still in rebellion. Okay, they are still in rebellion. Remember, angels are not people. And so there's a difference there. Well, we look at Sodom and Gomorrah. What was the charge? He condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, that was the charge. They did evil things in Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. And they had gone way down in the morality where they were willing to kill, they were willing to do all kinds of deviant kind of behavior to hurt other people, to gratify their own needs. What they did was evil. And, the Dead Sea is sort of, it hasn't sort of, it is actually, in the last 40 years, the Dead Sea has shrunk. Couple reasons for that. Everybody will get excited about this one. Couple reasons. One, global warming. Oh, okay. Everybody's happy. Now, but the other reason is a lot of people are using water. And the Jordan River is the water source for both Israel and Jordan. And they've drawn from it. And if you remember what the Jordan River used to look like when I was there in my 20s, and you see it today, it's a completely different river. It's a lot smaller. And because it's a lot smaller, the water is taken out from it. Okay. The Dead Sea, which the water enters into, and there's evaporation going on all the time there, and what you have left is all these minerals down in the Dead Sea. Nothing can grow in it, and nothing can live in it. I floated in it. I read a paper. Well, I didn't really read it. It was an Arabic paper, I believe, or it might have been a Hebrew paper. I don't know the language, And I'm looking at it like I'm reading a paper in the water. I don't have any floating device. I'm just sitting there in the water reading this paper. It was kind of cool, but it was kind of sticky too. But today the Dead Sea is really, really, really shrunken, and so Sodom and Gomorrah, I think we can, one day we might see some archaeology there. But anyway, Sodom and Gomorrah was an actual place, and people were judged there. And how did he do it? What was, he gave them a sentence. He was going to reduce them to ashes. He was going to burn everything in Sodom and Gomorrah. And he did justice. He saves Lot. He rescues Lot. But the conduct of the lawlessness got them, in trouble. So he judged them. All right. And in the time of Noah, they were very wicked. Now, their wickedness, not so dissimilar from Sodom and Gomorrah, was, Sodom and Gomorrah was sexual violent. Uh, the the people of Noah, they were very power driven, very violent. They wanted each one wanted the piece of the pie and to be the controller. So they really did a lot of violence. They did a lot of violence. Okay, and so much so, they were so violent that God just decided, man, I got to start over. They were so bad. And so he put Noah and his family in an ark. They were saved and rescued, but justice was done. Everybody else died in the flood. And so we see this, all right? We see this. And so we see this with Noah, we see it with the angels, we see it with Sodom and Gomorrah, and we see it with Lot. And Lot is a sad story, really is, at all levels. It's interesting how the Bible tells us the truth about people. And when people kind of go bad and they get dysfunctional, they might be one of God's people, but they might fall into all kinds of problems. And here Lot gets involved with alcohol. He gets involved with immorality within his family. It's bad stuff, and you wonder how did people get through this? In fact, people want to throw away the Old Testament because it's got all of this truth about us. We can be violent. Most of our history, written history, from the time people recording their observations of life, there's only been a couple hundred years where within those recordings there hasn't been any wars. Now, I don't really know if we can say that because there was a lot of places around the earth that people were probably killing and fighting that we have no record of. So who knows if we've ever been free of conflict. In the world in which we live today, there are at least 20 conflicts going on as I speak, at least. And you can read those in the paper. And a lot of the conflicts we don't even get covered. We get some of the big ideas in the Middle East between us and Russia and, China. We get some news of things happening here and there. But the world is full of violence today. And not only full of violence, but the slavery of people being used for prostitution mainly, but even labor. Slavery exists today, and it's big. It's big. It's very profitable. It's not just, we think we got over it with, Abraham Lincoln and all that kind of stuff, but no, it's going on all over the place, and people are complicit in these things. I remember when I was younger and I was talking to people about Jesus on the streets in the red light district. And while I was doing that, I ran into people, the girls who were prostitutes. There were a lot of them that were under the age of 15. Imagine that, under the age of 15. Okay, I talked to a girl once. She was 13 years old. And because I talked to her, on the street, sharing a gospel tract with her, Okay. Her, John, all right, beat her up. The next time I saw her, her eyes were all black and blue. She had bruising on the face, and I can only imagine what was done underneath. But she wouldn't talk to me, and she begged me not to even be by her. And so I complied. But there were people in cars who would drive up and pick girls like her up, you know, and they were from nice neighborhoods, you know, and they were being complicit to this particular trade with 13-year-old kids, you know. So I used to, you know, when they come up and they were making their deals, I used to say, oh, hey, I think I know your wife. The guy would be gone, you know. And the John would come after me and, you know, huff and puff and everything like that, you know. But my friend said to me, you know, Bill, I don't know. I don't know if this is your kind of stuff, you know. So I would, I became the discipler then after that, you know, because I was ready to go to war with that guy, you know. I mean, I was angry at the John, and I wasn't going to be bullied by him. I was, you know, it wasn't friendly out there, but I hated that world. But that trafficking is going on today, and people are complicit with that sin. And it's not the nice, clever little, ooh, isn't this a nice little thing, you know? No, it's not that at all. Pretty bad stuff. So, I'm going to pick this up, okay? And no, I'll continue. Let's see if we can get it done. And I'll be dividing this teaching up. Okay, now, so we see here in this paragraph, we see the how God brings justice. We see the sentence. We see the evidence for it. Now, he even knows justice. And part of that justice is he helps out the person who's trying to walk with him. So he helps Noah. He helps Lot. You know. And it tells us here in verse 9, if all this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and hold the righteous for punishment on the day of judgment. God knows how to rescue. He knows how to deliver. Okay? Now I want to take you to a particular psalm, Psalm 34. Okay? Notice this. Verse 15 to 19. Okay? These are wonderful verses, but it shows us how God knows how to rescue us. Okay? The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off remembrance of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears. He delivers them from all of their troubles. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart, and saves such as have a contrite spirit. Many are the affliction of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of all of them. Now, you notice here I've got the human characteristics that help us understand God. Now, God doesn't have eyes, he's spirit, but he can see. He doesn't have ears, but he can hear. He doesn't have a face, you know. He's not the old man up there, my dad used to say. Okay, he doesn't have a face, yet, you know, he has a will against those who do evil. Okay, and he will judge evil. What about Stalin? Killed millions and millions of people throughout his life. By every record that we have, by everything that we've seen from this man, he was very similar to Adolf Hitler, with the exception he kept things tighter under the belt. He didn't tell people what he was always going to do, but he was vicious. Okay, he wasn't a very big man. He was actually a short man, but he was a very vicious ruler that killed millions of people, you know, for whatever the cause was. And the cause had a lot to do with him. He was at the center of it. He was very paranoid. He did very bad things. We know that Hitler did bad things, or we should. I don't know why anybody would follow Nazism today. I don't understand it at all. If you read the speeches of Hitler, they are deplorable from the time he starts becoming political way back in 1919. Okay? He was looking for some cause, some political way to get power. And he found that right-wing group that was meeting. They were called Nazis. He was first kind of paid to spy on them, but very easily said, this is my niche. This is where I can, you know, make my way. And he developed, he knew right away, to get power, you got to be violent. And without violence, you're not going to get what you want to get. You know, so for him, whatever he thought was the end, and I'll be very specific here what he thought it was, but whatever he thought was the end, he thought that he could do it any means possible, and it included great violence. He said that from the get-go. Now the end of it was he was on top. Economically, he was part of the power. And economically, the people would prosper, but they were going to do so without what he felt was corrupting their society from the get-go, and that was Jewish people. So he had every desire from the very beginning to eliminate the Jewish race. That was his end. And he felt it was either going to be them that was eliminated or he was going to be eliminated. He said that over and over. So when you look at Hitler, he's very clear in what he means. And he develops his purity of race, which eliminates people like me with a handicap. And it would eliminate anybody of color. It would eliminate anybody who's different. He was trying to make an appeal to England for their common heritage. But in the end, he would have killed everybody different than himself. And that's what he said. Okay? That's what he said. And that's what he believed. And as the war worked out, that's exactly what he was doing to great evil. Will these people be judged? I think they will. I think they will. The Lord knows how to rescue the godly, but he also knows how to punish the wicked. And there's going to be judgment. Okay? So I just want you to know that with your problems, you're going to have a lot of problems. Many are the afflictions. But unlike some teaching that felt that God was somewhere out there not concerned, God is actually very near. And even though we suffer, even though we die, even though we go through things, God can be with us. When we do pass away, we go to be with the Lord. And, the ultimate deliverance happens there. Okay? Happens there. So the Lord knows how to rescue. Okay? He knows how to rescue. And sometimes He'll get the whole world involved just to do it. And that's what we see. Now, someday He's going to come again. And when He comes, He's going to put everything right. Okay, now, verses 10 and 11. Okay, look at the evidence again. Such punishment is specially preserved for those who indulge in corrupt desires of the flesh and despise authority, bold and self-willed. Okay, they are unafraid to slander, okay, and they dare to bring charges against him, okay. So anyway, we see here the evidence that they're just sinful and they're corrupt in what they're doing, okay. The charge, of course, is their lawless deeds, and the sentence will be carried out. Judgment will occur. Okay, there'll be a day of judgment. Okay, verse 9. And let's talk about the judgments. Now, with the angels, Jude tells us, the angels who did not keep their proper domain but left their own abode, He has reserved for them everlasting chains of utter darkness for the judgment of the great day. The great day, the great white throne judgment. Okay? And when we look at it, we see here Revelation. I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God. Now, the righteous, 1,000 years earlier, have all been resurrected. So they're not a part of this. They're not a part of this. And the books were open. Another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works written in the other books. Okay? But we find later, as we read in Revelation, that those names that are not found in the book of life, they are the ones facing this judgment at the great white throne. Well, make sure you follow me on Facebook or at fbcjoliet.com. YouTube, you can find me and look for Bill Reeves at YouTube or Facebook, and you'll get to me. I hope this has been encouragement as we look ahead.